Welcome to The Blindside, a Welsh rugby podcast from the atrium at University of South Wales in Cardiff. This evening we'll be previewing Ireland vs Wales and discussing the Welsh club sides in Pro 14 action. I am your host Richard Early, and I'm joined by Tom Pritchard, Nathan Parker, Rory Pitman. Good evening, lads. How are we?
Good evening. Not bad, mate.
How are we feeling ahead of the weekend? Quickly.
Confident. Can't wait.
Very Irish.
I'm feeling quite confident as an Ireland supporter.
Yeah, I think it's going to be it's a tough task of the weekend, but we shall see. You know what I mean? Both teams playing a great brand of rugby at the minute, so it's great for the fans, and I think it's gonna be one hell of a game, to be honest.
Would you have thought before the Six Nations began that Wales could potentially win this game in Dublin?
I think it's like anything. We know we've always got that performance in us, which is one of those things, you know. But watching them against Scotland and the offloading and everything else, I think that was a whole new dimension for Wales. So I'm quietly confident that if we can do that, then we can pull off an upset. But on the other hand, you know, Ireland are playing such great structured rugby, and you got Johnny obviously steering the ship at the helm. So it's going to be a tough task.
Yeah, Johnny Sexton, as you say, pulled off that brilliant drop goal against France away to win the game. It's really special moments like that can define games. How do you think Wales would fare in that sort of situation?
I'd like to think that the boys obviously would have, you know, they know this is coming. Do you know what I mean? They're used to it now. They've had heartache before with Ronan O'Gara and everything else. Do you know what I mean? It's something that happens. You know, say the luck of the Irish, but it's something that happens all the time. So these boys, you know, we got great athletes. So the boys will be hunting him down this weekend, and I don't think we'll see a repeat of Paris, hopefully.
And Dan Biggar's back in at 10 for Wales. Do you think Rhys Patchell deserved to be dropped from the 23 completely?
I think that was a bit harsh, I think. You know, I don't think they could get rid of Anscombe after the performance he had, but you know, I think Tom said it last week. I think they might drop Rhys for this game and then maybe bring him back in against Italy, because that's the style of play that Wales want to, you know, go along with. And obviously the aerial battle's going to be massive this weekend, especially after the England game. So yeah, it's a bit harsh on him, but I trust Scotland.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Tom? Dan Biggar coming in?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit harsh on Rhys, but I can see why he's brought him in. I'm not too bothered about it. I think Dan will give a bit more control than what Rhys would have given. I think that's probably what Gatland wants. Just going away from home, you want a little bit more control, and you know Dan's going to bring that. You know, over 50 caps, he's done it all before. He's been there and done it. Patchell's pretty good in the air as well with getting the ball, but as well as Dan. But I think Dan's maybe just slightly more tactically switched on. But I don't think it'll make too much of a difference.
Like, what do you think will define the game? I think it's going to be a very defensive performance from both sides and really come down to penalties and maybe one try. What are your thoughts?
I think defence has won most games between Ireland and Wales. You look at the game a few years ago when Scott Williams scored that try. I think we were on our own line for about 20 minutes, I think. And the game's always close, but you know, I firmly believe, especially with, you know, the loss of Furlong, you know, no Gary Ringrose, no Ian Henderson in second row. You know, they lose a lot of leadership there, and I think Wales can take advantage of that this weekend.
How will Wales take advantage of that?
I think it's going to be difficult. I think it's going to be who makes the mistakes first, who plays the most, and if they can retain the ball and everything else. You know, we've seen in the Six Nations already, you turn the ball over, teams will punish you. So I think it's going to be a case of, if Ireland play a kicking game, it's going to be tough, because you know, like I said, Johnny will pin you back in those corners, and then it's going to be Wales's prerogative to play out of there. But you know, I can honestly see Wales going there and throwing a kitchen sink at it, and just thinking, look, you know, obviously the loss against England and put them in a great place. If you can pip Ireland here in Ireland, it's going to be an absolute party back home here in Wales. So I can honestly see them throwing the ball about like they did against Scotland. I can see them going for it, and I think that with Dan Biggar obviously you know, stepping up now and taking charge, and Lee Halfpenny back kicking the goals, I really think they'll throw everything at it.
Yeah, and then obviously another thing, I think the Irish have got their hopes on St Patrick's Day, you know, at Twickenham, and thinking, you know, it's going to be our year, Grand Slam, and I think they've got a lot more to lose than we have, especially being at home as well. I think, you know, Wales know if they lose this game, the championship's gone. So I think that's another big factor as well, going, you know, in with a mindset like that.
I think Ireland were lucky to beat France, to be honest. Obviously, it was a bit of magic from Sexton. But if that happens against Wales, what are the odds of something special like that happening again?
That's what it could come down to. Like, I think there'll probably only be 3 or 4 points in it either way. It could be a penalty or a conversion either way. There's every chance that could happen. So hopefully it could be bigger doing it.
But when you look at France now, it's a totally different prospect, because France of old have tried to play that, you know, scrum, you know, but they haven't really had those creative players outside. Now you look at Teddy Thomas and all these boys, you know, they're scoring tries again, you know, they're the France of old. So to say that it was a lacklustre performance from Ireland is a difficult one there, because I think obviously France playing that style of rugby in Paris with a crowd behind them is a tough prospect for any team. So to go there and obviously nick that win was huge for them. I just think Wales are obviously, they're a lot, you know, they've been together a lot longer. They understand each other, and obviously with them boys coming back in and everything else, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be a lot bigger for Ireland, the challenge there. But I'm sure, you know, they'll rise to it, and in the RDS or whatever, in the Aviva, sorry, they'll love that, you know.
It'd be a bit funny if they played at the RDS, wouldn't it?
I'd love it if they played the RDS.
that was a trivia thing from last week.
Did you find any stadiums with hedges?
I looked it up, but I couldn't find any.
Couldn't you?
No, so unless anybody else has found any stadiums with hedges.
I'm sure there's a hedge around Tata Steel or something like that, no?
I think the only one would be like just a normal small club rugby pitch.
Robina Rugby Club.
Well, not Cardiff RFC anyway.
No,
might next season.
You played the Arms Park.
It's rubble at the minute.
What do you think of the? Is it 3G or 4G at the Arms Park?
I'm not sure what it is, but it's a great facility. It really is. You know, I've played on a lot of artificial grounds, and especially for a heavy guy like me, it's a lovely ground. The facilities are great, and you know, it really is a lovely stadium, you know, and I think it's still one of those stadiums, you know, in Wales that people can go and they can kind of get that feel of club rugby type of thing, you know. It's not massive like the Liberty and Pack of Scarlets, a bit like Rodney Parade, do you know what I mean?
Proper ground,
it's a proper ground, and I think people appreciate that, you know, where they can have you know, a bottle of beer on the weekend, and they can, you know, be a few inches away from the players, not you know, with the Liberty and everything else, you know, you got a big space between yourself and the players. So I think people appreciate that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Does your skin get used to the surface?
I think it's one of those things. For me, I try not to go to ground, to be honest. You know, I try not to hit the deck, but it's a difficult one, because obviously we want to change. We want to make rugby a better spectacle, so we want to speed the game up. We want less knock-ons. We want, you know, handling conditions and everything else not to come into it. So it is difficult with the pitches, and you're going to get teething problems at first with the grazes and you know, pitches being too tough, so then people are getting shin splints, tight calves, hamstrings, everything else. But I think they've really, you know, they've spent a lot of money there, and they've done it properly, because you know, the amount of times I've played on there now and everyone else, you know, like, you know, you got the best number 8 in the Pro 14, Nick Williams, playing on it every week, and if he's alright to play on it, then you know, I'm sure anybody else is.
How many times have you played against Nick? Did you play against him when you were playing for Scarlets?
Yeah, I played against him a few times. Yeah, it was always lovely. Do you know what I mean? It was
good wrestle.
Yeah, it was nice. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's one of those things, you know, you always want to play against the best, and you know, to play him out in Ulster, and you know, in front of his home fans and everything else. So yeah, it was lovely, and he's a gentleman as well, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah, I mean the picture of you scoring a try against Ulster it looked like there's 3 men on you. Gilroy, Ludick and Payne.
I think it was another 3 behind there, I can't remember.
So on average, how many men would it take to get you down?
I don't know, it all depends how much I'd eaten before the game, I think. Do you know what I mean? So
is it like that South African guy feeding you the?
Yeah, exactly.
Feeding you
exactly
all the chips.
No, you know, it was always it's one of those things for me. Do you know what I mean? I think Ulster's a a great rugby club, and I always enjoyed going there. So whether we played them home or away, I always tried to raise my game, like I did all for any game really. But it was always that little bit of extra push.
Will you be watching the game, Scarlets versus Ulster, this Saturday?
I think hopefully if Cardiff play in Neath at Cardiff's home ground, if you'd like to come down. Yeah. Excuse me. 11:30 kickoff. Lynn Jones is back for Neath rugby. No, we have a game first, and then obviously Wales are playing in the afternoon, so might have a few beers watching that, and then if I can. If I'm not sleeping or I haven't been recalled home by that point, then I might watch the Scarlets Ulster game. Yeah,
it's a brilliant triple header for you, Roy. Obviously Wales Ireland and then Scarlets Ulster in the evening.
Yeah, it's one of those things though. People say, do you still like Scarlets or something else? Well, I played with them boys. I was I bled with them boys. So you don't just stop caring about clubs you play for. Do you know what I mean? And they really are good. They're good people there. Do you know what I mean? Obviously there's some bad ones as well. Do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, but it's like anything in life. So of course I support them and I want them to do well and everything else. So hopefully they can go there and get the win on the weekend, because they have got some good strength and depth on the Scarlets now.
Yeah, me and Tom are going to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
one of three
it'll be a rivalry.
Ulster's only away supporter, I reckon.
I tell you what's frustrating about this is now, like obviously Heineken Cup are huge games and everything else, but when they fill it out, it's such an atmosphere. Do you know what I mean?
The game against Toulon.
It is, and
that was the best regional atmosphere I've ever seen.
It is, and everyone's singing and getting in the mixer is absolutely brilliant. So I would just love to see that, for a few more Pro 14 games. I'd love to see a few more packed houses. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You see the Aviva Premiership every week, and that they're packing it out at Worcester. Newcastle. It doesn't matter where you are in the league, they'll pack it out.
Yeah.
Apart from London Irish, probably.
No,
they're just diabolical.
But Majeski, is it?
Yeah.
Majeski.
Oh yeah.
It's a big stadium. It is a big stadium. Do you know what I mean? And they have fallen on tough times. But you look at London Irish back in the day, when they had Elvis Seviali, Chris Alafia, all these boys. Do you know what I mean? Garrity, they were bossing it. They really were. So I think it's like anything. People have their peaks and troughs. So
yeah, and obviously players at the club as well. I think you've seen a outflux of players. A few years ago, and then the crowd sort of started to go. And I'm quite surprised. Obviously, the Scarlets are probably the most well supported region in Wales, I would say, because
Rory doesn't agree. What do you got to say to that, Rory?
But no, I think they're well supported. Don't get me wrong. Do you know what I mean? And the brand of rugby they're playing now, they've probably enticed a lot of people back and everything else.
Oh,
but
yeah, definitely.
I think when you look at the whole thing overall, like you look at Ospreys, do you know what I mean? They probably don't get the numbers all the time, but there's so you have so many great clubs down there, like with the Neath and the Swansea, and obviously Bridgend being thrown into that mixer and everything else. I would say the Ospreys are the most supported region.
You do find with the Ospreys though that I talked to a lot of people down at Neath, and they don't have nothing to do with the Ospreys, sort of thing. And maybe do you think that they could get on the sort of Ospreys bandwagon, maybe, and sort of get behind the side, or
I think it was tough, boys. When regional rugby was introduced, it was tough, wasn't it? You had people going one way. No, I don't want this. I just want to. I'm going to go and watch my local club now. But then I think what you've had is kids growing up now, and that's all they know is Ospreys, Scarlets.
Yeah, that's the difference.
Dragons, Blues. So I think what you'll find is now over the next probably 5 or 10 years is these kids growing up, and then they bring in their children through and everything else, and I think then you will start to see full stadiums and these clubs getting supported really well, because you have to think about it, these clubs haven't been established that long, so it's like anything, you have to grow your support, and
it's a bit like obviously Ulster, Munster and Leinster, they've been around for 100 years, do you know what I mean, as a region. Do you know what I mean? So they're the ones that get the crowds in the Pro 14 really. So
yeah, I mean Ireland's massive and can afford, like, obviously they get big crowds every week because the size of the population and everybody loves the rugby, but Wales obviously a lot smaller.
it's hard to compare.
Do you think that's a factor? Like,
it's hard to compare because you've got Wales, you've got the 4 regions that they only basically cover South Wales. Where Ireland, you've got a province for each kind of, and that covers all of Ireland. So you've literally got each part has got a support. So that is I'd say that is why they get these crowds. And
But
you can't really compare.
do you almost think Wales have like too many teams?
I don't think they have too many teams. I think what's really frustrating is, you go to Cardiff on a match day and there's 80,000 people in the stadium and there's probably another couple 100,000 people out in Cardiff having a beer. I mean, if you can come out to watch these boys play for Wales and everything else, then surely you can go and watch them play for their clubs, and that's frustrating for, I think, a lot of people. Is, a lot of them stay away from the clubs and everything else, but then when Wales are playing, they want to be a part of that, and they, imagine if they were a part of, let's say for instance now, who have Scarlets got in the quarterfinals?
La Rochelle.
Scarlets, La Rochelle. Do you know what I mean? If you went there, I haven't been in a while, get down there, do you know what I mean? Get behind them, get supporting them and everything else, and then when Scarlets are doing well, and Ospreys doing well, Blues, Dragons are doing well, then Wales are going to be doing well as well, so I think get down there, show your support, bring your kids, all these types of things, let them have a taste of regional rugby, and then I think things like that will help the game grow in Wales, and that's what we want ultimately.
Yeah, do you think those extra people that turn up for the Wales games that really aren't that interested in rugby, they're more there for a piss up? What do you think of them?
I love them, I do. Yeah. they got the old Rockport Wales jersey on,
Daffodil.
Yeah, I love that. And like every woman is wearing like these wet look leggings, do you know what I mean, and a Welsh top. And I love that. Do you know what I mean? But it's nice to see them, support and everything else. Do you know what I mean? It's just funny when, something's happening and then walkabout, they're all like, and they have no
idea.
Halfpenny
playing. Is Halfpenny playing?
Yeah, that's the gist of it.
It would be great to have that every week because Cardiff Blues obviously beat Munster at the weekend. But before that, you didn't really hear much about Munster coming.
No.
You didn't hear much about the result.
No. Which is a shame, really. Do you know what I mean? Imagine packing that place out. No, it's not hard, is it? Do you know what I mean?
It's a tiny ground, isn't it?
Exactly, but I think the price of tickets has got a lot to do with it as well. Yeah. I understand we're in, every region's trying to run it's a business at the end of the day, and they have to make money. But I'm sure if, tickets were a lot less, and so say like, for uni students now. Buy a ticket for £10 and get a free pint of beer or
some incentive.
Some incentives like that. Kids, buy a ticket for £10, get 20% off your replica jersey. Little things like that. Do you know what I mean? It just adds spice to it, and then you get them people who are kind of 50-50 on the fence saying, do you know what? Yeah, go on. I'll go and have a pint or two with the boys because it's free and I only spend a tenner. Do you know what I mean?
Stay out as well, though.
Stay out.
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, Tom and I went to Cardiff Blues Zebra and paid 24 quid for a ticket. We turned up on the match night, but to get the ticket, but still 24 quid for Zebra is a bit harsh, isn't it?
Yeah. It is. That's expensive. Do you know what I mean? But who paid anyway? Obviously, date night. Who paid?
Tom.
Irish people got a lot of money. That's what I heard anyway. Do you know what I mean? I heard that. Yeah.
He's taking me to the Scarlets on Saturday.
Yeah, how much is that?
Back to his place.
Yeah, it's a £5.
Is it a £5?
£5.
See, that's brilliant.
That's just student price, but it's brilliant.
It's still even like an adult tenner.
Yeah.
So.
You get a pick a mix on your way in Asda, but they look. Do you know what I mean?
Hole in the bottom.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Need to be a big old hole.
But no, it's like the Ospreys, they do a thing where you can buy like 2 match tickets for 2 games for like a tenner maybe. Do you know what I mean? It just gives that incentive then that they're going to get that certain amount of people for the next game as well. So especially when like the Southern Kings and the Cheetahs come over as well. So yeah.
I tell you one thing, boys. Like I played in New Zealand when I was younger. So I was in Taranaki, and I went to watch the Hurricanes one day, and it was an experience I'll never forget. So I went and I was thinking, why does everyone talk about New Zealand rugby? Why does everyone talk about the Northern Hemisphere, everything else, right? So I was like, one of those things. So I got in there and it was kicking off. Everyone was on the beers, everything else. It was brilliant, right? And then half time they had a thing, a kiss cam. So they take this kiss camera, a bit like in the NBA and everything else, right? It was absolutely brilliant. So some that you had two big dudes and they'd like kiss each other on the cheek and stuff like that. It was really cool. They'd like add these t-shirt canisters, so they go around shooting t-shirts out. Obviously, just bringing the crowd into the game and drawing them into the game. Do you know what I mean? So it was a raffle. I think TUI Beer was the sponsor at the time, so it was like number 249, you've won 10 free pints of TUI, please come and you know. I think little things like that, getting a buzz around the stadium, getting an atmosphere going, getting people to be like, bloody hell, I want to go and watch this again next week. Do you know what I mean? I think that's what we need more of.
It's a bit like the Sevens though, isn't it? You get a festival atmosphere at the Sevens, and I think Scarlet's tried it a few years ago where they tried to have a hot pool or a jacuzzi on like the side of the thing, and you're not gonna get in on November Friday night. Do you know what I mean?
So what I would have now is I'd have a section. So say you're a free section. I'd say for everyone in university or whatever down that way, I'd say right, it's gonna be £10 a ticket, but you can keep refilling your drinks or whatever. So you could get a guy around. They walk around with those big things on their back. Yeah. And they could just walk around that section, just refilling. You know what I mean? So,
and that's another thing that frustrates me as well when you go to the Wales games, because I like to just sit down, have like maybe 2 pints in front of me, watch the game, and enjoy myself. But then you have to leave like 5 minutes before half time to actually get it in the queue, and then you come back, then they've already kicked off. So that is a very good idea. I think that's something that they're saying now. The WRU are on about banning alcohol in the stadium.
Yeah.
So.
Jesus Christ.
It's the same with going to the toilet.
Yeah.
You have to leave early to go to the toilet.
Well, in the Arms Park, there was only one toilet in the whole stadium. Believe it or not,
what?
There was only one toilet. They would just piss on the floor, like. So
I'm sure there's toilets around the back now.
No, the Arms Park, like the old Arms Park, thing.
I'm sure there's like they've got these porta cabin things around the back.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right.
So maybe you're just pissing on the floor for nothing, bro.
Like.
There's people like you who are killing the game.
I wasn't alive, but I wasn't alive in the old Arms Park.
You're killing the game, bro.
You're just doing it in the terrace, Nathan. Like, what's in the
Christ.
game?
Every Saturday, but.
Do you go down to see the Ospreys much, Nathan?
I try my best. Obviously, it's quite far away from Pontypridd, and I like to support my local club. Obviously, Rydvelyn as well. We're in the championship, and they've come from nothing, from like Division 5 to the championship. So they fall from bottom in the championship. It is a big step up for them. But it's been quite a difficult season with Ponty this season. You've got the likes of Domikowski and Azarati who have come back from the Blues now. Who are trying to help out, but they narrowly lost to Merthyr on the weekend and had a red card as well.
Lost out on star signing. Rory Pitman.
Oh, you can't say nothing. You got yellow carded.
Oh, that was genuine.
Oh, yeah, the yellow card the weekend, Rory.
Yeah, it was one of those things, boys. You ever seen Saving Private Ryan? It's just like
Is that what came into your head at that point?
Bro, honestly, I was just taking one for the team. Do you know what I mean?
Take a life on the pitch.
You got to do it.
Yeah, we just accumulated so many penalties at that point, and we were really under the pump. And I thought someone's got to step up here. Someone's got to get penalised and yellow card.
Typical professional.
Honestly, it was one of those things, and I let the team down and let myself down, and when I was off for 10 minutes, they scored 3 points. So that really
it's not bad, is it?
No, well, I know, but it's not good. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't advertise that to any young kid coming through taking professional penalties. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're looking in good shape anyway. How's your performances?
Well, since I've come home from Jersey, I've lost 7.5 kilos.
Yeah.
So I've really grabbed the bull by the horns, and I've been doing something they call a ketogenic diet, which is like zero.
Haven't heard of it.
Zero carbs. it's like quite high in fat and protein. And I'm feeling good off it. It was hard at the beginning, but feeling good, and been training well, and I can see in my game already little things are starting to come through, and like I say, it's not going to happen overnight, but when it does happen, then I'll be glad that I've been doing all this hard work.
So what's your plan for this season? Just stay this season and then see where you want to go in the summer? Or
boys, a sport's one of those things. Do you know what I mean? Anything can happen. Do you know what I mean? There's like injuries, anything. But I'm really happy there. They're a good bunch of boys. They got good coaches and great facilities. So I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm, like I said last week, under no illusions what I got to do. You know, I've got to get fit there, I've got to lose some size and everything else. But more than confident when that happens. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll be doing something. You know.
Yeah.
You're really yet to hit your peak. 'Cause you're only 28, aren't you?
Yeah, but.
So.
I do, yeah, you are. You could be true. You could be right. Yeah, you got to understand. I haven't played. When you look at how much rugby, so say like you know, someone like Alan Wynne. Alan Wynne has played so much rugby. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how his body copes with it. You know,
Yeah.
I just don't. The guy is, he's a freak of nature, and he, you know. But like, I've had so many injuries that I was speaking to someone about this the other day. Say when you've had so many injuries so young and everything else, usually it allows you to play a little bit later in your career, as long as obviously you look after yourself and maintain yourself. And you see that now with players like Jamie Cudmore. You know, when he was at the Scarlets and everything else, he never really made an impact. But then as he got older, started at 29, 30, everything else, playing for Claremont, he was the man, you know. So
is he still playing now?
no, he went to Lyon and then he retired, and he's actually pushing the concussion stuff. So making sure that
Yeah, 'cause he had a big thing with concussion, didn't he?
yeah.
Did you ever get offered to go to France?
I have got offered to go to France. Yeah, I signed a contract in France before as well. So
Really?
Can you speak about that?
What do you want me to say?
You sound like Joey Barton trying to do a French accent.
That's what I was going for. If you get the gist of it, like, do you know what I mean? No, well, signed a pre-contract, and it's like anything in France. Do you know what I mean? It's all jouet, like. So it was one of those things. But I don't. You know, I like I said, I got offered to go France this year again. Do you know what I mean? So they're always looking for a big fat ball carrying number 8. So
there's not many, is there?
They are.
It's the land of the giants. Let me tell you that. You got a Pro de Deux in France, right? And it's like, Jesus Christ, where has this guy come from? You got like some Fijian bloke who's 6'8", 6'9", size 20 feet, who's, you know, able to run like 100 meters in 10.5. Do you know what I mean? Absolute freaks of nature.
I think they got the biggest man in Wales as well, didn't they? Joe Jones. Do you remember Joe Jones?
The prop.
Yeah.
Playing for Perpignan.
Yeah. And he's gigantic, but just going off the radar. Do you know what I mean? Sort of losing him. I think he was at the Blues. I think the Blues lost him. So you know, there is a Welsh falling out there. Like,
who's your toughest opponent been, Rory? I saw you playing against Dan Carter.
I wouldn't, but you know, playing against Dan Carter for me was happy days. Like, do you know what I mean? Because I was just watching this guy just kick the ball and everything else. Do you know what I mean? So it was happy days. But the probably, you know, Nick is up there with the hardest, and another one would be called Carl Ferns. He played for
he signed for Gloucester and he's stayed at Lyon, isn't he?
Yeah, mate. What a player! You know, he played against me all age grade and everything else, and you know, he was a serious handful. So he was a good player. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Hello.
Mate, alright?
Oh, hello, Rupert. We finally got you through.
Yeah, no worries, fella.
How you feeling? How you feeling?
Yeah, all good.
Looking forward to the game at the weekend, Wales v Ireland.
Yeah, all good. Can't wait.
What's your prediction for it?
Huh?
What's your prediction?
Wales win, 21-17.
Oh, that's a high score then, isn't it?
expected more than that, Rupert.
It's not going to be as one-sided as lots of people think.
Rupert, you played against Ireland a few times for Wales, haven't you? What have your experiences been?
Yeah, I've had many an experience in Ireland, and 2 successful ones when I played in the Championship in '94. Can't remember the score, but we won, and then we went on to win the Championship. And then I came back and played in Rhys Williams' first cap, and Steve Jones was in the team, and all these young boys were playing in 99, 2000, I think it was.
I think that was when Stephen Jones scored that beautiful try, didn't he? And
it was a beautiful try. It was a move that went wrong.
Was it?
So, yeah, it was a move off the line out, and I'm sure I was supposed to go one way, someone else was supposed to go the other way, and then we all passed it to the wrong people, and then the gap opened up, and there he was. And then if you look at the footage, you'll see that going saying something along the lines of, how the hell did that happen?
Could see you bobbing round with your red scrum cap on as well.
Yeah, that's it.
So are you saying that Wales will need a mistake to get a try against Ireland?
Mate, I can tell with those dulcet tones you're clutching the straws there, my friend. There's no mistakes. It just means that we can make mistakes and still score and still beat Ireland. So there's no problem.
Yeah.
Hey, Rupert, Rory here.
Hello, mate.
Hiya. What do you think about the way Wales are playing at the minute? Obviously, the offloading game and everything else. Do you think they're going to go to Ireland and, like we're saying to the boys now, throw the kitchen sink there? Or do you think with Dan coming back into the team, they're going to be a bit more conservative and kick a little bit more? What are your thoughts?
I hope they don't change the way that they're going to play, and I don't think they will, because they went to Twickenham and played the same way and tried to use the ball. I enjoyed the game in London. I thought, I'd prefer to watch the way that Wales play, and weren't successful on that particular occasion than watching England play the way that they do, which is a bit mundane and boring. But, I think the evolution of this squad and the way that the coaching team under Gatland has developed the game with the personnel they've got is exciting, enjoyable, and they've got confidence to keep doing it, as like the Scarlets do, right till the final whistle. And it was but a pass inside or a better dive from Scott Williams, and we'd have won that game.
We were talking about that last week, didn't we? What did you say? He was like a Sahara desert, like.
Yeah,
I mean, literally, he needs diving lessons. And it was something that we used to practice in training. It was how you were going to get in the corner. But yeah, I think if he'd have turned inside, there was two people there that could have walked under the post. But he just peaked a little bit soon, and I think he thought it was a little bit greasier than it was. It was a Deso pitch, so he was just going to get stuck in the grass.
With
what happened?
With the Scarlet scrum halves, Gareth Davies and Aled Davies, how do you rate their performances so far?
Yeah, look, they are sort of a little bit not as chalk and cheese as Mike Phillips and Gareth Davies were, but Aled likes to get the ball away, but he's still a physical character. Gareth Davies can just use his strength to make every decision the right decision. Mike, world-class individual, because he was able to, every decision he made was the right one, because he could always get out of jail because of his physicality. Gareth can't quite do it as often, but certainly his electric pace and strength is a good combination, and it's a squad game these days, so it's nice to be able to bring Aled on into the game.
If we could obviously pick Webby, and obviously he was fit and everything else, would you stick with Gareth or would you put Reece in?
I think Gareth and Reece are very similar players, so we have that luxury.
Yeah.
There's some really quality nines around, so either or from my perspective, and that's why it's good that it's on form. I think Aled gives you an extra, a different dimension if you're just needing to play like we are, that quick game. So it's a lot on the old engine to keep going and going and going, because we are keeping playing, and they are used in the same way with the Scarlets. They do make those changes because the fatigue factor is massive when you're playing at the pace that we are. So I just think we're spoiled for choice. So at the moment, Gareth is the guy who's in form and fit. So he deserves that.
I think what's going to be huge next season is, I don't know whether it's been confirmed yet, but obviously Aled Davies moving to the Ospreys.
Yeah.
That competition then for places, because if the both of them are getting first team rugby and starting for the regions, how do you pick between them then? Because like you're saying, they both, obviously one is better at distribution than the other, but the other plays more of a physical, more.
Yeah, and I think that it is about horses for courses who you're playing against, but I think there's not a great deal between their service. I think we let's not get hung up about the fact there's a lot between Gareth Davies and Aled Davies' his service. It's all about the platform, as you know. You've got to have the big uns like you to do what you have to do to present the ball. And nowadays the rules are favouring. There's no competition in the same way in the ruck area. So you're able to sweep it away. It's just the speed of sweeping it away. So both have their their attributes, but it's just a question of who you're playing and where you're playing. And I think Gatland isn't afraid to make selections as well, depending on the opposition. I think it only bodes well in our strength and depth. And I enjoyed seeing new players playing in the autumn. I listened to Warren Gatland talk to the ex-international players in September, October about how he was using the autumn as a tool that they were going to train through. The Six Nations, they wanted success, but they were looking to blood young players to develop them and broaden their experience, because the only way you get experience is getting experience. And then he was going to leave 10 or 11 players behind to go to Argentina with the experience lot. So it's even going to be stronger again by the time we hit the World Cup. So I'm excited by the way they play, and I like the fact that young players are stepping up and delivering.
Rupert, coming away from Wales for a minute, you left your job in North Wales, was it in 2016?
Yep.
How do you feel RGC and the North Wales sort of revolution, as it were? How's that gone?
Well, I was very proud to be a part of that. When I was commercial director of the Scarlets, I promised the former chairman that I'd help for 3 years and have that opportunity. And then the Welsh Rugby Union approached me to say, we've got a bit of a challenge in North Wales. It's part of our long-term strategic plan, and it was a little bit commercial. There was a little bit of rugby, and there was a little bit of politics. So it appealed to me. It was a challenge to kind of start from nothing really, and we basically had a youth team that was put in a very tough division in Division 1 East with Treorchy and Ystrad Rhondda and real rugby clubs in Penalta, and they didn't know we were coming. So these were kids who were 18 and 19, had never been into the Rhondda and that area, and it was a tough love experience. But
nobody wants to.
No, well, I think my upbringing was playing for Abertillery, and that to me was my bedrock and foundation for real rugby. And I think a lot more young people in our academy system could be groomed and developed in the hardened levels of Division 1 East, West, Central, whatever it may be, because that's real rugby. That's where you either stand up and deliver, or you run away and step off the pitch. And these kids, we did a 10-hour bus trip every other weekend. Well, for the first 7 weekends, no one would come and play us in North Wales. We had to do the first 7 weekends away. But after that, 4 or 5 years later, playing in, Parker Scarlets or Sardis Road or Cardiff Arms, there's no fear, because they've done it in places that is difficult to go and with no support from the, as in touch judges. And these guys have grown up, and now they're playing magnificent rugby, and the development just has to continue, because there's 1 million people that live up there, and we've only got 3 million in the country. So we need to have them engaged and producing another like George North or Robbie McBride or whoever it may be for Wales.
I think, Rupert, as well, I spoke to Phil John the other day, who I played with at the Scarlets, and he's a wonderful man, Phil, and obviously Boise's up there as well. So the type of guys they are, like, that they're going to get the nuts and bolts right with the set piece of the forwards, with Phil at the helm there, and with Mark, obviously, with him, obviously he was a flamboyant player and everything else. You can see the way they're going now, and the type of scalps they're getting in the Premiership now. Surely they can only get better, and with a little bit more investment, and I don't know, maybe looking at it from a regional point of view. Do you think that is the course to take in the future?
Yeah, well, there was when I joined in 2012. It was about igniting the flame in the brain of supporters, because we had no supporters. It was also investing in young people, the 15, 14-year-olds, and the kids that then were going to be our future, and getting them to want to aspire to be the best they can be within touching distance of playing quality rugby. And I think for us it was about, if we can get that certainly that those kids that wanted to play at the highest level, training in a fantastic facility at Park Areas. And we were fortunate that we had Damien McGrath, who was the England Sevens coach and rugby league coach, to do our skills. Chris Horseman, who was working, like as you said, on the nuts and bolts and the hard yards. And that investment in skill and physical development, we had the best facilities, and we have the best facilities up in North Wales. the next level was always about Premiership within 5 years, regional status within 10. It took Connaught 10 years to go from nowhere to somewhere, and that was the model I used as a way we could develop. So it was there's never a good time to invest in your future, so you have to start somewhere. And we worked very hard and working and getting out into the community to get the kids to think about playing for us, but also then investing in us, the current team, because the team needed to be successful before you get respect. And I approached Mark Jones as soon as he'd left Rotherham, and an opportunity in that January, February, and it took them 8 months to get him in the end, but they got him, and he was the right coach, and is the right coach for this season, certainly from last season, this season. I'd like to see him and Phil John progress to the next level at some point in the near future, and then other coaches get the development opportunity to work in North Wales, because they're a development region to develop players. So I used to have this conversation with my coach and say, you've got to win, you've got to play attractive rugby, and then a couple of your best players have got to go into the regional system, like Crean Williams. Unfortunately, we lost James Lang, but he's playing for Harlequins, like Ollie Cracknell, to name but three, and also have returners that can come back and get better again. Dion Jones from Carmarthen Quins, Yolo Evans from Carmarthen Quins, to come back and help in the development of North Wales rugby, because there's some real quality, and you need a mix of stickers, you need the returners, and then kids that are going to progress through into the higher echelons of the game. But I believe they can be a Connaught, and they can play a place, whether that's in an LV Cup or a British and Irish Cup. Whether they'll actually take the next step up to full regional status, I don't think we need to. I think what they do is serve their purpose well at the next level.
Do you got a boy playing 10? Is it Botica?
Yeah, Jacob Botica.
No, I've seen some videos of this kid, and he to be fair, obviously his father was a All Blacks legend, yeah. And this guy looks.
He's a real deal.
He looks like a serious player,
Yeah, and when we were developing the squad, because we hadn't got that strength in depth and that that quality from 1 to 15, because you have to nurture talent, develop talent. It doesn't happen overnight when you start with 18 and 19-year-olds. And we, unfortunately, we lost one of our ones that helped us along the way. Was a guy by the name of Ian Williams, the Swansea prop, who sadly died this week. And I signed him a few years ago to help us, because we needed some experience and someone to anchor the scrum. And he stepped down to help us step up. And moved and really helped us in North Wales, and did more than just play. He coached and nurtured young talent, and we were able to get Tian Lutz, who's a South African centre, who's Welsh qualified now. We were a real tough nut, and then as you mentioned, to have Jacob Botica, you need to get your 3 points. In the first 2 years, we were always running our penalties. So I think in the first season, I think we only attempted 3 penalties at goal all season, because we were trying to overplay, and that was in reality we needed more lineouts and more scrums, because we literally needed to develop our players, so we need to play more, and that's an interesting conversation to have. But our coach bought into the spirit of it, because there's no point us winning 9-6 when we got 18 and 19-year-olds, because they're not actually going to get better for playing with the ball. And it showed last year when they beat Merthyr 3 times out of 4, I think, in the last play of the game. And that shows that a team is comfortable on the ball and with an investment in skills at 18 and 19.
I went up to RGC's stadium last season with Ponty, and the first thing that hit me was the crowd. How, because we've been talking about crowds with the regional game on the show. The crowd up there were just phenomenal. Do you
think we started with 50?
Yeah.
and that was just in a pre-season friendly.
Yeah.
But our first home game, having had 7 games away, in our first Division 1 East home game, was against Rumney, and we had 1,500 people.
Wow, that's amazing.
Now,
brilliant.
That was 7 games away. So we started in the August. I can't remember, we played Chester or Coldy, and there was 50 people watching. And then we played 7 games away, but we'd work really hard within the community and getting people, because we're starting with new fans. So you had a North Wales counties team years and years ago, but you never had anything like this. And there was a bit of a flurry of, 10 years ago when they had some Canadians playing. They played friendlies, but there was nothing like this. And what we did was our players were spread from Anglesey to Wrexham and Mid Wales, and across to Aberystwyth and up Dolgellau. Tom Hughes, the centre now, is from Dolgellau. Now, 10,000 square miles is a big area to draw fans in, and it was difficult, but it was about playing good rugby, but people could connect with the kids that were playing. So they were from Llandudno, they're from Nant Conway, they're from Wrexham, they're from Ruthin, they're from Llangefni, and that's what North Wales needed. And now the supporters will stick with them whether they're losing as well, because at some point they're not going to be as successful as they have been over the last few years, because they are basically full-time pros in the way that they train. A lot of them are in education, a lot of them have got part-time jobs, but it's not something you can sustain into your late 20s or early 30s.
And Rupert, you mentioned obviously rugby in your day. How much has rugby changed since you stopped playing?
It's like basketball and netball, mate. I swear, I started for Abertillery when I was 17, and it's great. Bish has just come onto Twitter, my hero, who looked after me. My brother had a good relationship with him way back when, and they were big friends. And when I started to play for Abertillery, my first game was against him. He took care of me, and it was just a different game, going to Mountain Ash or Abercrave, as well as playing the likes of, in the Cup, the likes of Swansea and Cardiff, and all those were fantastic experiences. But that was a physical game with no hiding place. I'm not saying it was a violent game, but you sorted everything out in a different manner now. And now quite rightly, it's a modern game with support and technology and eyes everywhere, and it's basically the entertainment business. It wasn't the entertainment business before. It was more than, it was about your village, your town. Now you're entertaining, and there has to be more than just a win. It has to be entertainment, because you need people to come in the same way that Wales needed to be successful first. And people can complain about how Gatland did it at the early years, but this is the most successful period Welsh rugby's ever had. So me saying a different game, I could, but I don't know whether I could sustain it like I used to. And I've been retired, blimey, 16 years. Mental, isn't it?
You wouldn't need that scrum cap anymore, Rupert, would you?
I'd need more than a scrum cap, Jesus. Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? The comparisons are. It's probably actually less physical than the last few years, because now people are using the ball more to create space rather than running into people to create space. So the collisions aren't so, as Jamie Roberts used to do so well, Dan Lydiate used to do so well, running into people. So it's probably better for the rule changes, and long may that continue.
And Rupert, who would be the toughest opponent you've ever faced?
Bish was probably one, because he was, he'd been in jail for breaking someone's jaw, and a physical, intimidating character, not only because of his physicality, but also because you never knew what he was going to do next. He was always he had the ability, the confidence, whether you call it an arrogance, to go, well, if I want to play from my own line, I'll play from my own line. I will. And or I'll drop a goal, and I tried to emulate him by dropping a goal like he did in his career. Unfortunately, mine went over, not quite as high as his did, but things like that. So Bish was probably one, and then the other internationally was Joos van der Westhuizen, who sadly left us as well. Because he was physical, and you could prepare to play against him, but you couldn't always stop him because of his physicality, and because he would try stuff and get away with stuff more often than not.
Did you ever play against Brian O'Driscoll?
Yeah, I did, as a young man, and he commented about my some part of me a couple of last week on Twitter. In fact, we've had a few interesting evenings out. I have fond memories of playing in Ireland, and Michael Bradley was a good guy, and we used to, after an international, those are the good old days, where you go to Leeson Street and sit in a bar downstairs. I remember sitting in the kitchen drinking champagne with him. putting the worlds to rights. So yeah, very fortunate played against Bod, and a world class bloke on and off the field.
Who would your toughest opponent have been, Rory?
Like I said earlier, Nick Williams is always, absolute freak of nature. Do you know what I mean? So it was always tough against the big bear, but that, like I said, the guy for me was Carl Ferns. Do you know what I mean? England should have picked him. He's playing in France now. The guy's a machine, and it's like playing against. If I could compare him to anyone, it'd be like looking at a young Lawrence Delalio. When he carries the ball, everyone just gets a lift. But it's got to be Fernsey, I think.
Yeah, and Rupert, who would be the biggest guy you've ever had to tackle?
Who's the what guy?
The biggest guy.
Probably Lomu comes into. Obviously,
just leave it there.
Drop that in there.
Lomu probably comes into that somewhere.
You smashed him.
Yeah, just hang on. You just hang on, don't you? You just let someone else hang on and hang on. And most of the time, any of the big guys, you jump on their back. As in my position, I always tried to let a back row forward, whether that was Perigo or Lynn Jones, or any of that, Emil Lewis or Scott Quinnell. You used to let them do all that sort of stuff, and you come in for the glory bit and just jump on the back. The chief, Dale McIntosh, was always an interesting customer. Because he always used his forearm to help you, guide you in which part of the anatomy he wanted you to tackle. But yeah, big guys, they do go down, but I always used to let someone else try and do that.
How do you go down, Rory?
I try not to go down. It's like I said, if I come off dirty these days, I know that I've had a bad game. So no, it's being the weight I am as well, Rupert, you can understand. As soon as they do get me down, it takes me about 15 minutes to get back up. So
well, see, Scott Quinnell, had this thing about low centre of gravity, so he always looked like he was down, but he wasn't. So it was really difficult to tackle him. And for him going off the base of the scrum, he would literally pick and go, but stay low. Yeah. And that's hard to get someone down then. And then I always had the advantage of, if it wasn't SQ, then I'd have Salesi Finau, who was a large Tongan. I always used to tease the fly halves. I'd put him on the blindside wing and get him to come from blind to open from the base of the scrum and look at and point and say, "This guy's coming to see you." And there's nothing better, is there, from a big guy running into a little end with a forearm smash to match.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, you mentioned Scott Quinnell. He loves a bit of acting. Have you ever considered that yourself, Rupert?
Mate, I've already been in the movies. I was in a movie Up and Under a long time ago, and then I've obviously doubled for Jimmy Nail for many years.
Old crocodile shoes.
You obviously didn't see me in Evita, did you?
No, not at all. How do you think Scott Quinnell is at acting?
Well, he's a very good friend of mine. I think he's great.
I honestly, you meet a lot of people through your career, Rupert, and everything else, but I'll never forget. I always wanted to put the number 8 shirt on for the Scarlets after watching Scott Quinnell, and I was there on a touchline. I was going through a tough period at that time, and he come and he put his big arm around me, and he just said, do what you do and everything else, and for a man of his caliber, to do that, just give me such a boost and everything else. But I don't think young players coming through these days realise how much of people like him were heroes, and how much they have given and done for the game.
I think it is. We only borrow the jersey, and I borrowed it from Johnny Griff and others before, and Selwyn Williams. And when you were fortunate to wear that scarlet jersey, and I had it. I borrowed it for 272 times over 12 years, and it was always embedded in us by Gareth Jenkins and others that it was a duty to do your best, whatever it may be. And I wasn't the best player, and all you do is they just want you to do your best. And the support and the history that you have, and I still to this day see older players and the mentoring that happened when I was there, whether it was Lawrence Delaney or Phil May, names that probably wouldn't resonate with a lot of you guys there, that passed on that heritage. And it is about, Scott passing that on and just giving the support that he is. But he would have had it from sort of Phil Davis before that, and someone else, and the Delmy Thomas before that. So it is unique, and I like to class the Scarlets as very unique because we are different, and it is a different place. And because we're a small town of 25,000 people, if you add in Buryport and Pembrey, you might get 50,000. If you add in the old county, you've got 117,000. But if you add in the two other counties in the region, you still only got 300 and odd thousand people, which is really, they shouldn't achieve anywhere like they do achieve, and they should never have as many people as they do rock up and watch them, when it's raining or snowing or winning or losing. So, we had the privilege, me and you, and you'll always be a Scarlet. And however many games you played, you'll always be a Scarlet, and that's something we should all be very proud of.
Yeah, no, that's that's huge, Rupert. Honestly, we're so we're so thankful for you to come on tonight, and like you said, these young guys obviously with doing their thing with this Blindside podcast, just trying to push their opinion of rugby and everything else. But to have you on the show has been brilliant, and your insight, and obviously you can still tell your passion, your love for the game, and the Scarlets and Wales is second to none, Rupert. And thank you very much for tonight. We've all enjoyed.
Look, I really appreciate it, and the old as it was, Polytechnic of Wales was a big part of my life. And the reason I was able to stay in Wales was because of my education, and otherwise I'd been sent back to England. And if it wasn't for that place, and what it is now, and the way it's developed, I'm proud to see the progression, and the fact that it's just leading the way in Wales and probably the UK in the way that it's developing young people and sport. And so, I'm very grateful, and it's been a privilege to be a part of it, gents. Good luck with it all.
Thanks very much, Rupert. It's been brilliant to have you on, and hopefully we'll get you on again soon.
No problem, my friend.
Thank you very much, Rupert.
Cheers, Rupert.
Thanks very much
for that.
See you later. That was brilliant to have his insight, wasn't it?
Yeah, he honestly, he's like you can tell there, he's a very well educated bloke, and he knows his rugby inside out. Do you know what I mean? And I think what he's done, like he said, what he's done there up in North Wales with taking them from nothing, putting those foundations down, and the way they're going now, and the players that they've got there, and I think they really will. I think they'll push for regional rugby.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Yeah,
I think they need to change the pitch for starters. They need to get an artificial pitch there. But I do think with you got Mark Jones coaching, Phil John coaching, you got other people involved, like you said, the Chris Horsemans and people like this who've been there. I really do think that it'll be great for Welsh rugby and great for North Wales to have that region there.
And they played that. I think they played like a training match last year, didn't they, up in North Wales? Do you think Wales should maybe go up there and play like a Tonga or a Samoa in November or something?
I think they should, but I love that training match against RGC. One thing I would have liked to see is if they'd have picked from the whole Premiership. So they'd done like a
Premiership 15.
Premiership select. Because you've got to understand though, there's a lot of probably ex-pros playing for like Merthyr.
They got Kerry Sweeney playing at Ponte.
All this type of thing. I wouldn't say necessarily Sweeney. I'd probably pick Bottica 10 because Kerry's obviously been in that, and he was a great player for Wales and Blues and Dragons. But I would like to see someone like a Bottica playing 10, and then you got the younger guys in your outside centre role or inside centre role, and then you got the young props in obviously for Cardiff. Dylan Lewis, Azaradi, Domikowski, or Scott Otten for people like that. Do you know what I mean? People who could stand up and be like, well, hang on now, in 3 years' time, this guy could be playing for Wales. So I think it could be exciting. I think it could. It's like anything. When they have boxing exhibition matches, you always want to see David against Goliath. Yeah. And you always want David just to sting that one, just that one punch, just to wake him up and let him know, look, I'm here and I'm here to party,
I think they still talk about the Wales A side, I think, and I think they were trying to get Romania and Georgia over. Maybe that could be an idea to get the game up in North Wales, maybe, Yeah,
it definitely needs to be spread, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Ahead of the Wales-Ireland game, Matthew Lofthouse again went to interview Delmy Parford on his thoughts. We'll have a quick listen to that now.
Welcome, Delmy. Looking ahead to the game on Saturday, where do you think it will be won and lost?
Up front, where all rugby games tend to be, I think Wales have shown that they can be a threat with the ball, and so I think if they get a surplus of ball, if the forwards can win the possession, I think Wales can do some serious damage. I think it'll be a real sort of arm wrestle up front. Wales have to win the collisions. Ireland are ferocious competitors in Dublin. It's just about Wales being mentally and physically prepared for the onslaught up front. They've been caught out there in the past by a fast Irish start. I remember in 2014 when Wales lost 28-3. Peter O'Mahony, the Irish flanker, was just like a man possessed that day. So they have to be ready for what's going to come at them up front.
Right. Wales have had their injury worries, but Ireland have also had their troubles with Furlong and Ian Henderson set to miss out, along with Robbie Henshaw. How much do you think they'll miss these three in particular?
I think they'll miss Tyg Furlong enormously. I think he's one of the best tight head props in the world. Very mobile and also good at the set piece. Henderson, they'll miss him. I don't think he's had a greatest season, but he's the sort of player. He went on the Lions tour in the summer. He's bound to be missed. And Henshaw, again, that's a key miss because he brought class and skill, but also experience. And I think Ireland don't have a great deal of experience in the midfield. With Bundy Aki and I think it's Chris Farrell who partners him. That's an area I think that, given Henshaw's absence, Wales can potentially exploit.
What are your thoughts on the selection of Dan Biggar? Who do you think Rhys Patchell has been hard done by?
Well, I would have picked Patchell. I think he was outstanding against Scotland for the hour or so that he was on. He didn't have his best game against England, but I didn't think that was really reason to bomb him out straight away. I think, his time, he'd waited a long time for his chance in this Six Nations, and I would have personally liked to see Gatland give him a little bit more leeway and say to him, look, you weren't at your best against England, but we're giving you another chance, because that's the only way people like him are going to come through. Dan Biggar, they've gone for him because of his experience and because he's good in the air. Wales were poor in the aerial battle at Twickenham, so you can understand that, but I don't know. I'm not a massive Biggar fan, to be honest. I think the way Wales are trying to play, open and creative, I don't think he particularly brings the best out of his back line. But only hindsight will tell us whether that's the right call.
Warren Gatland takes charge of his 100th game for Wales on the weekend. Of his 50 wins, which do you think was his best?
I'd be tempted to say the England World Cup game, but I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say the win against Ireland in the 2011 World Cup quarter-final. I just think that Wales went into that game probably as slight underdogs, because Ireland were, really a real formidable team. But performance-wise, it's one of the best Wales performances I think I've seen in the modern era, never mind in Gatland's reign. They really were outstanding that day in all departments, and played some great rugby, scored some great tries. And the only pity was that it all came to an end in the way it did in the semi-final, because I honestly think Wales should have got to the World Cup final that year. But there we are. The rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Delmy.
Interesting thoughts from Delmy there. He had a very interesting point about Dan Biggar. I didn't fancy him.
Hey, nice to see someone, voicing an opinion.
Yeah, fair play to him.
Fair play to him. He's obviously not Big's biggest fan, which a lot of people are not. They don't like the antics with the ref and everything else. But I've known Dan from a young age, and I've played with him from a young age as well. And Dan is just so passionate about his rugby, and you know he basically got a blueprint of what he wants. He's a bit like like these Tom Brady guys. They just love winning. Do you know what I mean? And it's become a habit to him of being the best. And when things go out of place and not the plan, it kind of pisses him off. And that's going to happen. You know?
He has got a lot of Sexton in him. They are quite similar in that. That's all they want to do is win.
Yeah.
But Brian O'Driscoll, I think Flats and Shanks asked him. Who would he rather play against, Patchell or Bigger? And he said Bigger all day long, because we're going to get from him. With Patchell, he's always playing on the line, and you don't know where he's going to go, left or right. So there are people out there that try to get up Bigger, and I think he's done all right in the Welsh shirt for the last how many years since the 2013 Six Nations. So give him a go against Ireland. I don't know whether it's a bit too early for him, but
he can tackle as well, my bigs.
Yeah.
That's one thing, and he commands the air now.
Yeah.
And we got halfpenny kicking, which I do think is a little bit harsh on Patchell, because obviously he wasn't there last week, which would have taken that burden off him to a degree, and it might allowed him to play a little bit more. But shoulda, woulda, coulda. Biggs is back in. Let's get behind him. Let's hope that
we'll stuff Ireland.
Yeah.
I hope not.
Really?
You mentioned playing with Dan Bigger. Has he always done the Macarena?
No.
That's gone now, hasn't it?
Yeah, he's taken that out. I think it was a piss take, to be honest. I mean, I think he was just doing it to
waste
time.
Waste
a bit of time. But
He kept a serious face.
honest to God, like must have been 14 years old, and this guy is kicking the ball from halfway on St Helens rugby ground, and it's like hitting the back scoreboard. Like, I'm not even joking. Like,
Bloody hell, that's an effort.
no, he was literally. He's always been meticulous in his training, his approach to rugby, and everything else. So he deserves all their accolades and everything else.
Definitely.
And who do you think will win the battle between Sexton and Bigger?
That's a tough one, because they're both such similar people. I played with Jerry, Johnny's younger brother, in Jersey, and he was telling me about the way Johnny lives his life. Is he's so dedicated and the ultimate professional. Well, that's the same as Dan, So I think it's going to be a difficult one, but I think whoever gets that first good kick in, or that or that first good play, and who's riding on that bit of confidence, because Bigger, if he gets that bit between his teeth, he's almost unstoppable. Do you know what I mean?
Touch him.
But Johnny Sexton, again, if he's in that armchair of that Irish pack, and with that Conor Murray, if he's getting the ball off Conor Murray, he's literally in an armchair, and he's pinging the ball wherever he wants it to go. So I think it's going to be a toss up. It's just whoever gets themselves in the game first earliest.
Definitely. It's going to be really who makes the most, gives away the most penalties is going to win the game.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah, it could be.
Well, we only give away 2 against England, so
Yeah, very tight game. That was. You mentioned England were only scored in their final score was 21st minute. Yeah,
that's going to be interesting this week as well. England, Scotland, I think. Many people in Scotland, they pinpointed this game before the Six Nations even started. I think that game against Wales obviously has deterred them a bit, but come back, beat France. I think there's a wise choice going for Greg Laidlaw scrum half. I don't really rate him as an all-round scrum half, but for tightening the game up and the calmness that he brings to Finn Russell, I think when you have Ali Price there, everything's a bit hectic. Do you know what I mean? Everything's a bit 100 miles an hour. With Greg Laidlaw, tighten it up a bit, and I think he was the main reason why they beat France 2 weeks ago.
It'd have been an interesting battle. Going back to Sexton, did you play against Sexton, Rory?
Yeah, played against him a few times for Scarlets. Yeah.
Did you get to tackle him?
Probably not. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things you don't get to him, like
He touches the ball and it's like bang straight away.
He's unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? He's such a brilliant player. It's one of those things. As a back row, you always want to get off the line and you want to put a shot on 10. But when they're that good, do you know what I mean? They're passing the ball and everything else. And the last thing you want to do is give away a silly penalty for hitting him late or something like that.
He's had a few big hits in his career, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's had many concussions. Is that a tactic you've heard of? Target like the 10.
It's like anything in rugby, or whatever. You always target the main men, like football, like Lionel Messi. Everyone always tries to
3 players around him.
Yeah, box him in. Same with you know, any good player in rugby or whatever, you always try and target the danger man. But you know, it's actually getting to him, you know, is the hardest thing. It's like trying to get a Justin Bieber at a concert. Do you know what I mean? It's just everyone's coming out nowhere. You know, it's like, nah, not today. You know, you got Heaslip, nah, maybe not this minute, maybe again. Then Kean Healy, nah, brother, not happening. Do you know what I mean? So
is that an experience you've had trying to?
Well, I don't know. Last
Justin Bieber.
if I got hold of Justin Bieber, let me tell you now.
You'd arrest warrant.
I'd wring his neck. Let's get Justin Bieber on this podcast. Little shit. That guy's destroying lives. Serious though.
He'd probably try and square up to you, Rory.
He'd probably try something, yeah. I didn't
Nah, you try to call me back, innit?
And then run away with the security guard. So.
Honest to God. I'd love to put him in a sandwich and just...
This ain't the Bieber podcast now, come on.
Shit.
Forget about him. Are you looking forward to playing at the weekend, Rory?
I am looking forward to playing. Like I said, I'm enjoying it at the minute. Do you know what I mean? Is a good buzz around Cardiff at the minute. Do you know what I mean? They got good coaches, good players, and the Premiership as well. You know, there's a lot of good teams in this Premiership now. Anyone can win it. Obviously, people are going about Merthyr and big spending budget and everything else, but you know, anyone can beat anyone in the Premiership, and that's what I enjoy about it. Because back when I first started, you know, when I was playing for Bridgend, you know, you'd always go up against Ponte and you'd be like, Jesus Christ, you know, let's try and keep the score down today, you know, or you go to Neath and you'd be trying to, you know, like just stay in the game type of thing. Do you know what I mean? But these days, anyone can beat anyone. You know, you got Bargoid, who are coached brilliantly, by the way. They've got unbelievable coaches, and you know, they can beat anyone. And then you go to, you know, Ebbw Vale and all these different places, and I just love that mix up of, you know, it's whoever wants it more on the day, you know.
Yeah. What's the aim for Cardiff this season?
I think for Cardiff is they've lost a lot of boys through injury and everything else. I think the aim is to get back to the brand of rugby that they were playing at the beginning. You know, like they beat Merthyr at the beginning of the season and teams like that, you know. So get back to the brand of rugby they were playing. And just little things like the weekend, you know, hold on. You know, we should have beat Llandovery on the weekend. We were 20 points up, I think, or whatever it was at one point, and we should have.
It's hard going there though, when you go to them away, especially. You know, the trip up there isn't, you know, and. Well, how was it for you? You know?
It is hard. Well, I was, you know,
I've always found it going up there, you know, as a Ponte fan, you know, it's never been easy.
No, it is one of the, you know, there's a few places like that in the Premiership, but at the end of the day, you know, you've played these teams enough time in your life to get that out your head and just you know, crack on with things. So look, we're working on things as a team, and we're trying to get better every week. So yeah.
Whether you're with Cardiff next season or not, do you sort of agree with the Premiership structure? Are you a bit confused?
I don't really like it personally. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it's great for you know, teams who have busted in that to be at the top, and then, you know, it all starts again type of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've seen teams like Aberavon and teams like that struggling now, you know.
Well, the thing last season, I think they changed it again this season from last season. Ponte went, I think it was 8 weeks without a home game because of the structure. So whoever's finishes in the top 8, if you've played them home already, you know, you're gonna have about eight away games. So the money wise for these clubs is killing them as well.
Yeah.
So you know, I would happily just go back to the days of whoever finishes top, you know, wins the league. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the Pro 14 is quite interesting. It's been split into conferences. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that was more sort of they kind of had to do it, didn't they? It was people.
Well, I could have had one big table.
Yeah, but it's difficult then for the South African.
I heard that they're putting 2 new South African sides in next year. That's what I've heard.
Really?
Yeah.
Where'd you hear that?
I heard someone.
Someone. So, what are the Pro 14 fixtures?
There's a friend.
Nelson Mandela.
Tom, other than Scarlet's Ulster, which we're going to, what are the other Pro 14 fixtures for the Welsh sides?
You got Blues away at Zebra on the weekend. Blues coming after that brilliant win on Saturday. Really impressive against Munster.
That's a win for the Blues, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Zebra have improved a bit this year, but
Zebra's
you're
in
back.
form.
Zebra beat Dragons on the weekend, didn't he?
Benetton.
Was that Treviso? Yeah.
Benetton, Treviso, yeah.
Sorry, I get confused.
They were awful.
Benetton rugby.
Did anyone see the Dragons game?
Yeah, I did. I watched it.
Awful. Absolutely awful. Zane Kirshner, you know, put on Twitter, and you commented on it, didn't you? I thought he was a fairly decent player as a fullback, but they put him fly half because they've got no one there to play there. I think something's happened with Henson. I think they're not playing him for some reason
Angus
or another.
O'Brien, is Angus O'Brien injured? Or?
I think Angus O'Brien is injured, but Zane Kirsch's playing the 13 this weekend. But he had an absolute shocker. I think Treviso turned up only 20 minutes before the game.
Yeah.
They only turned up 20 minutes before kick-off. They had like a 5-minute warm-up, went straight on the park, and it was like Dragons went, I think, 10-0 up. End up losing, I think it was like 18-13.
They'll be better next season. They got Josh Lewis going there from Bath, and he'll steady the ship. Josh, he's.
Do you reckon he'd be a starter then?
He'll start. He's when he's had his chance for Bath, he's been brilliant. Do you know what I mean? And
he's a talent that not many Welsh supporters really know about.
Well, no, he's brilliant for Ebervale and everything else, and he can kick, pass, run, put your teeth down your throat if you want it. I know that. Do you know what I mean? He's.
You know that.
He's one of my best mates, and honestly, I won't tell you the story, but he's a lot smaller than me. But we were on a few beers one day, and I started to rattle him a little bit, and he put my teeth down my throat. So I was stood there in shock, really, more than anything else. But
fair play.
He's lucky he's my best mate. Otherwise, I would have absolutely smashed him to bits, I think. So
your teeth still look intact.
Well, I had to get him glued back in, didn't I? Old Doris down the post office had to glue him back in for me.
What type of glue?
Oh, well, I don't know, Pritt stick, whatever they use.
Must be pretty solid.
Yeah. What's the next fixture?
Right, let's go. Ospreys home to Cheetahs. Ospreys pretty poor last week against Southern Kings. Pretty dreadful.
I think that was one of the worst performances. Honest to God, I know it's great that they had a bonus point and whatnot, but I think that was one of the worst performances I've seen the Ospreys have this season. For me, Southern Kings, and you may laugh at this, but they're the worst professional outfit I've seen in a very long time. There's just no structure there. And I heard a story that the referee forgot his cards in the first half.
Oh God!
And there was 2 penalty tries, and he couldn't give a yellow card because he forgot his cards. So
it's very unprofessional, isn't it?
Yeah, no. So the lines would come over and just sort of backhand, straight in the.
Here's a card.
I think it's tough for the Ospreys at the minute, boys. Tandy going, everything else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a lot of uncertainty down there and everything else, but that's no excuse with the players they have.
Yeah.
You have Sam Davis at 10 as well. You'd probably expect a little bit more from these boys at the minute, but maybe it was just a bad performance and they need to get out of the way.
So what do you think? Do you think Tandy was to do with a big problem this season, or do you think there was?
I personally think that they've had coaches who were kind of Lynn Jones, knee through and through, Sean Hawley, knee through and through, Tandy Ospreys, knee through and through,
Humphreys as well.
Yeah, Humphreys. I think they need fresh blood now. I think they need someone to come in, maybe whether a Kiwi or a Safa or something like that, and really grab it by the scruff of the neck. I mean, you got the Irish forwards coach Mick. He was at Ulster. Apparently the boys reckon he's brilliant, and he's really brought a new life down there. So
is he like the head coach now?
He's head coach at the minute, so it's new for him as well. So I guess that with him putting his input in this week and next week and everything else, I think they'll get better.
Yeah,
I think they were just as simple as they were just a poorly coached team. Like if you compare this squad to the Scarlets, there's not a massive amount of difference, but Scarlets is just a very well coached team.
I think the Ospreys have 27 players out, whether they're away international and injured. So that's been another big factor I think this season as well. So
yeah.
Roy, how have the Ospreys changed since you left?
Oh bloody hell! When I was there, literally it was
Galacticos. Wasn't
oh my God, it was so like. I was a kid as well, like I was young, and it was unbelievable. You'd walk around, you'd have like Henson, Hook, Mike Phillips, Justin Marshall, Jerry Collins, all these boys kind of
Tia,
Philo Tia, Marty Holler, the list is endless. Do you know what I mean? And it was such a crazy environment. Do you know what I mean? Now you look at it, and I look back and think, we had the Christmas do in Tyback Rugby Club that was in the papers and everything else. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I was a young guy going in this, and but I'll tell you a story anyway, right? So we had the Christmas do, and obviously I was young and thought I was the man, and I got absolutely paralytic drunk, and Alan Wynne Jones rings my dad, and he's like, "Hi, Mr. Pitman. I've got your son here, Rory. he's drunk. You need to pick him up. And my father was like, you can bugger off, leave him in the snow. So Alan went like, turns to another friend of mine, Gareth, and he's like, is this guy being for real or what? So he rings my dad again. He's like, honestly, this is Alan Wynne-Jones. Please, can you come and get your son? He's steaming drunk and, he can't speak and whatever. And my dad goes, if you think I'm coming down here, you got another thing coming. So he said, leave him outside in the snow. So anyway, long story short, you can't get a taxi for shit now, right? This like Boxing Day or whatever it is. Snow everywhere. Alan Wynne-Jones, Gareth Owen, Scott Bolden, take me home to my parents, right?
Carried you, did they?
Mate, they carried me out in this taxi and everything else, right? And they just they give me to my dad, and my dad obviously shook hands and was like, "Thank you, boys, whatever." But you should have just left him in a ditch somewhere. And anyway,
Sounds like my man.
I woke up and I was absolutely freezing my ass off, and my dad had left me in the front garden in the snow. So he'd had something in his head, and he followed it through, So no, but they were great guys, and even though they were some of the best players in the world, they always had time for you, and they always tried to help you in any way they could and everything else. I just think it was a bad. They had too much of a good thing in one place, and it just didn't happen for them.
To be fair, the snow would probably sober you up pretty quickly.
Jesus Christ! I was pissed for days. I woke up and I was still pissed, and then just one of those things you kind of ride the storm in, don't you? Do you know what I mean? But that was. I love that. Do you know what I mean? And that's honestly God's honest truth. What happened? Do you know what I mean? So I still get the piss taken out of me now a little bit. Do you know what I mean? When Bolden sees my father or something like that, he always has a laugh. Do you know what I mean? But
is your father a big lad as well? Because
he's not a small man. He's like 6'3", and he's a little bit lighter now than he was, but. He don't take any shit, put it that way. Do you know what I mean? So any of my antics, and he gets his foot up my ass. Even though at 28, do you know what I mean? If I rub him up the wrong way, he's not afraid to let me know.
What a story! Well, what's the final fixture, Tom?
You got Dragons Edinburgh, which, Edinburgh coming off the back of beating Leinster and Ulster the last 2 weeks, really impressive from them. They've put themselves, back within a chance of possibly getting a playoff spot. You probably think Scots and Leinster would have it nailed down, but Edinburgh, a well-coached team. Richard Cockrell, they're giving themselves a chance.
Is that at Ebervale's ground as well?
Yeah, Union Cross Park. Yeah, they've not sold that many tickets for it.
They haven't sold that many. Oh wow!
You'd imagine they could sell it out, but
What has happened to Edinburgh Rugby? I mean, they beat Leinster the other week to beat Ulster.
I think it's just a Cockerell effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just being well coached, as simple as that.
You look at how many players he's let go now. He's let Duncan Weir go, and boys like this, boys who were at the heart of Scottish rugby probably over the last few years.
Yeah.
And he's gone in and he said, look, this is the way I want it. This is the team I want. It's my way or the highway. And I think Alan Solomons was there before him, and he was carrying, I think, a few boys who probably were past their prime or whatever. But to be fair to him, he's taken that job under the under the illusion that he's in charge, and it's it's up to him.
It's an incredible story. It'll be interesting to see all the fixtures this weekend.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that'll do us for today.
Rich, who do you think's going to win on?
Ireland Wales. Well, obviously I'm going to say Ireland.
Yeah, we'll score.
I'll go. I think it's going to be a very defensive game, so I'll go 15-12.
We wear Welsh shit next week.
15-12 to Ireland. Saxon scored last minute.
You really think that's going to happen?
I hope so. I think to be honest, I think it's good. There's going to be whoever scores a try is going to win it. I reckon.
If Ireland win, okay, one of us three will neck 3 pints of Guinness on the head. Yeah. But if Wales win, you've got to drink 3 pints of Double Dragon on the head.
No problem.
Serious?
Yeah, doesn't know what Double Dragon is.
Have you had a pint of Double Dragon before?
Some Welsh stuff, is it?
Exactly. Bro, that's some serious Welsh stuff.
I'll have to wait and see if it happens.
Right, okay, let's just see.
Is that a deal?
Yeah, deal.
Alright, sorted then.
Yeah. You uni boys are used to drinking anyway. You're drinking Panda Pops and shit like that now.
Oh, no. Panda Pops.
Fruit juice, but
yeah. Right, I got a life to get home to, boys. Right.
Alright, thanks very much.
Really
for
enjoyed
us, boys.
tonight, boys.
Cheers, guys.
It's been brilliant. Thanks for listening to The Blind Side.